All right, now we are 21 years old according to Eriksons stages that we're going, and we're going to look at around 21 to 35 or 40. And again, these are fluid stages, and so we don't have like a certain at 21 this happens, but it's around that time. At 35, late 30s, there's some things that begin to happen, and so we will talk about this next stage. From 21 to 35 or 40, this is when we see that a lot of those things that we've had from our teenage years, that personal fable, the idea that everything is this it revolves around us, this egocentrism, all this is coming up into this next stage. And emerging adulthood, this time of early 20s is going to be a time when there's a lot of reality checks and honestly some crisis at times. Because of that egocentrism, we're going to be learning that, we're not quite the center of the universe. So just think about the idea that for somebody in their early 20s that they are going to have these things to look forward to. I mean, their career. I mean, your career may not end up being quite as exciting as you thought it would. Now, I hope to goodness that all of your careers are just fun and adventure all the time. But the truth is if you have a career, it's generally because they're paying you because they don't want to do your job, right? And so most of our careers are something that someone else is paying you because they don't want to be out there doing it. So it's not necessarily fun. I mean, if you're going to go somewhere and have fun, that's like Joyland or the movies. You pay them. They're paying you, which means it's not going to be fun, right? It's going to be work. And I'm really grateful for the job that I have. It's really easy and fun, and I look forward to it. But for many of you, man, you'll be in that career and thinking, oh my goodness, I live my whole life looking forward to having a career, and this is what work is? And so we have our career. We have to do what our boss tells us to do, right? Egocentrism, and a boss is telling us to do something, authority figure. And then we have marriage, and oh my gosh, you want to talk about dealing with egocentrism, right? Marriage, the only way you're going to stay married is to start giving up some of your egocentrism. You can't be the center of the universe if you're going to remain married, right? You have these two people, they both thought they were the center of the universe, and they're going to collide. I mean, I wish I had a movie narrator's voice. I would say it like this. In a land where there were two kingdoms, there will be war, there will be a collision, and only one can survive. Marriage. Right? I mean, just think about this. Really, for most couples, when I do marriage counseling, if I could just tell them three things, three words, and they would just follow those three words of advice, I wouldn't have to do marriage counseling. Let me tell you what those three words would be. I should give them a t-shirt that says, don't be selfish. If I gave them a t-shirt that said, don't be selfish, and every day they looked down at that t-shirt and they just did what those three words said, I would be out of a job as far as a marriage counselor goes. Because, man, if we just weren't selfish, we wouldn't get ourselves into half the things we get ourselves into, right? If both partners weren't being selfish. And so we're going to deal with that egocentrism. And if you don't think marriage is going to deal with your egocentrism, oh my. Let me tell you, when you have children, it's going to deal with your egocentrism. Because they're not going to be aware that you even have needs, right? I mean, they're going to think that they're the center of the universe again. Think about the progression. I mean, you've gone from being the center of the universe and feeling like that now to where you're parenting someone who believes they're the center of the universe. Think about your parents' progression. I mean, there was a time when you were completely dependent on them. You had to have them in order to live. You were looking up from them at the crib and seeing their faces, and those were your world. And then you moved in a time when you wanted to be you were in love with mama or daddy, and then a time when you wanted to be just like them. And then you went in your teenage years, and all of a sudden, those are the two lowest IQ two people on the planet are your parents. And then I think God has a great sense of humor, because then you move into a stage where, guess what? You are a parent. You are one of those low IQ, mouth-breathing beasts that we call parents. I'm a parent to three, and so I'm one of the lowest IQ, mouth-breathing beasts on the planet. But it's funny, I think that God has a great sense of humor, because you go from thinking your parents don't know anything to being a parent. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe you do learn that you don't know a whole lot. And so you become a parent and you deal with your egocentrism. I mean, I'm someone that loves food. And I promise you, when you have kids, you will hardly ever eat food warm again. I mean, you'll be cutting up your kids, making sure they don't choke. I mean, I only cut my kids' food up so they don't choke and interrupt my meal. But by the time that I've got their food cut up and their drink set up and their ketchup, my food's stone cold. There'll be times that you ask your kid 1,000 times, you want to go to the bathroom? Do you want to go to the bathroom? Because here's the deal. Kids pick the most inopportune times to go to the bathroom. I mean, it's right at the climax of the movie. You could be in a building with 7,000 clean, safe restrooms, and your kids can hold it for like 12 hours. You are in a desert somewhere, or you're at a gas station where you have to ask for a key to use your nasty bathroom, and your kid's got to go every 30 seconds. It's the craziest thing. But it never fails that right when I'm getting my food, I mean, I'll order a steak and be so excited about it. One of my kids will look at me and say, "Daddy, I need to go poop." Oh, you talk about dealing with some egocentrism, right? I deal with it every day. I'm a selfish person, and in order to even parent, I've got to give up some of that selfish. And so parenting, marriage, career, all those things are very much breaking up pieces of that egocentrism. Now, some of the things that are also happening, you are definitely figuring out who you are. You've got that career. You've doing that in emerging adulthood at the early state. And you're developing intimacy. Now, this is most often seen in romantic relationships. It can be within friendships too. Intimacy basically means to know and be known. And in a healthy romantic relationship, I can share myself with you and you can share yourself with me. Now, let's go back all the way to that first stage of development. If there was an issue with trust, are you going to be able to be intimate with somebody? Is that going to be a challenge for you if you're not able to trust? Right? Isn't trust a foundation for intimacy? So it could cause some big problems. So Erikson calls this stage intimacy versus isolation. Isolation would be if you can't trust somebody and you can't let them in, you build a wall around yourself to keep them out. And we know that when we build a wall around ourselves, we keep people out, sure, but we also make ourselves a prisoner. So it's a really dangerous thing. So he calls this intimacy versus isolation. And this is the time, I make it sound terrible. I mean, some of you are thinking, well, great, I don't even want to be that age. I want to just freeze being 18, 19 years old. But let me tell you the great part about being the age 21 to 35, 40 is, yes, you do get a solid sense of who you are. And man, if you meet somebody that you really love and you really do life with, then you can have a marriage like mine. I mean, that's one of the things that I always kind of hope for all my students. They have a marriage like mine and a family like mine where you actually have a best friend that you look forward to coming home to and somebody that you look forward to. I mean, my wife and I, our biggest arguments are when we don't get to spend enough time together. We love hanging out with each other. That's my very best friend in the world. We have this high degree of intimacy, and there's a really rewarding thing. You'll also have intimacy in just the faces of your children. You'll see your kid. You'll be so attuned to what's going on with your child that you can see the most subtle facial change and know, oh, they're about to say something. I need to get them out of this public area. Or you know about exactly what they're about to do. You can read them like a book, and they can read you. There's a high degree of intimacy and exchange. You'll get this pride for your kids. I mean, you may have a time when you're going through a struggle with your kids, and then they'll do something, and I promise you, it won't necessarily be the time they hit a home run. Yeah, there might be a time when you have the home run or the touchdown, or they did great on their math test. Those times of pride. But I mean, the times that I've seen the most pride with my kids are times when I've seen them put somebody else in front of themselves, or they have maybe taken somebody that didn't have the advantages they had, or had some type of learning challenge, and they were able to work with them. I've got a little boy that is just gifted with working with somebody with special needs, medical needs especially, like a little bitty kids. He's just gifted with that. And when I see that in him, I just swell up with pride. That's part of that stage, that intimacy that you get there. So don't be afraid of it. It's this really awesome time. But if you're not able to open up and you're still trying to figure out who you are, if you're still trying to figure out who you are, I mean, you haven't even got at least the beginning parts of that. It's very difficult to share yourself with somebody else. Now, research does show that, yes, you are still growing up, especially in those 20s and early 30s. You are still growing up in some areas and still solidifying. So don't get worried or panicked. You don't have to have it all figured out. It will come naturally for most folks as long as those stages have gone pretty well. Again, according to Erikson, though, if those stages haven't gone well so far, could cause you some problems.